I wish I had learned this truth many years ago. Be thankful for the days, good and bad.
All right, welcome to another episode of Warrior versus Zombie. And today, as always, we have an amazing warrior guest with us, Annika Sorensen, and she comes all the way here from Sweden. So we're excited to introduce you to her in a second here. But first, I want, if you're joining us for the first time, or if you need a little reminder, what Warrior versus Zombie is all about. As warriors, we know success is a journey, it's not a destination. As warriors, we all have a history of ups and downs, wins and losses that are all part of making us who we are today and providing a foundation for our path forward. We all battle our inner zombie as well as those zombies in our world. And in each episode, I interview warriors who are aspiring leaders from all walks of life. Entrepreneurs, artists, health practitioners, business owners, really any inspired leader that has a story to tell. These warriors have a cause, they have unique value and a vision that goes generations into the future, and Annika is absolutely no exception. Dr. Annika is an incredible warrior. She is a Swedish MD, a primary care doctor specializing in health and stress strategies focusing on preventative care. Her over 30-year warrior journey in the Swedish Public Health Care system was primarily focused on disease, but today her focus has shifted from health, wellness, stress management, and workplace health. She's an international speaker, and including her certification from Big Talk Academy, she's had 2 TEDx Talks. One of them, Unlock Your Inborn Power to Beat Stress. If you want to go find that, I'm sure it's out there. Beating Stress is Easier Than You Think is the other one. She's the author of 2 best-selling books on stress management, Take Stress from Chaos to Calm, and The De-Stress Diary. When she's not speaking and writing, Annika offers workshops, individual mentoring services, and she'll shortly be launching her online stress management program. Dr. Annika, welcome to Warrior versus Zombie. How are things in Sweden?
Thank you. It's so nice to be here, and things in Sweden are good. I would say we have a lovely summer. Today the weather has been perfect for Swedish standards. Maybe not for everybody, but for my standard. And
yeah, I think you would enjoy. My wife would enjoy the weather you're having more than mine. She grew up in Michigan, and so here in Texas, It's still, even though we have a cold front, I think it might make it to 90 degrees Fahrenheit today, as I think we discussed before we got started here. That's way too hot for her. So probably she would love to come and hang out with you during the summers here. We used to go back to Michigan a lot. So tell me, I'm very curious, and you're the first guest that I've had that has actually been, I mean, others have lived in other parts of the world, but you are like living right now in Sweden and in that part of the ocean, as I say. I mean, we're all in different boats, but we're in the same ocean, but it's in a different part of the ocean. What does that look like there? I mean, in terms of like this, the COVID, the everything, we just don't hear a lot of, we don't get a lot of that news. There's too many other stressors that are in our world over here in the U.S. What does it look like there? Are things more stressful, less stressful? What are you guys dealing with?
I would say it's getting way less stressful because we have very low, very, very low numbers right now, especially in the part where I live, it's very low. The ones that do get sick today are the younger ones, the ones that have not got the vaccination. But they don't, most of them don't need medical care in the hospital. And that was the problem. I mean, most people don't get that ill. But when too many get ill at the same time, it's very straining in the hospital.
Right.
And of course, some people a lot of people have died in the world from this. So it's not a game.
No, I don't think anybody that has gray matter really sees it as a game or sees and doesn't take it seriously. I no matter how it's characterized by whatever particular political interest that wants to put it out there, there really isn't, to my knowledge, anybody who takes it here lightly. The death toll has been great, and nobody wants that for any reason. I mean, there's plenty. I mean, you're an MD, right? So plenty of other people are dying of more than COVID over there, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think that the over rate of dying from COVID is that much high. It might be a little bit. We won't have the numbers until 5 years from now or so, when we can see in the backlight what was really going on. But I mean, old people die from ordinary flu when they get that in them. So that's how it is.
Yep. Well, again, I mean, that's one of the things I often say is, nobody gets out alive. So
No.
we're all destined for heaven.
We're all gonna go that way.
Yeah. So
no
and
matter
again,
what.
not to minimize it, not to want to see anybody not have the longest journey on this planet that they can possibly have. But anyway, well, that's interesting. Well, let's do this, Annika. I really want to get into your story and kind of talk about how you got to where you are today. I think it's fascinating being in what I would call the traditional medical system, and now as you've begun to evolve on what you're doing today. But let's just talk in this next segment about wherever you want to say you started. I know both of our journeys are too long. We can't talk about everything in our story or how we got to here, but then where you started and then how you got to today, and then we'll take another break and we'll talk about what you're doing today. And I'm very interested in that. I have many people who regularly listen to this podcast that are under a lot of stress and under a lot of challenges. And so I think what you're doing today is something that would serve everyone here. So we'll take a quick break. We'll hear a little more from Ricky Jean Wright. It's Not the Getting There. And we'll be right back with the second segment of Warrior versus Zombie and Annika Sorensen.
But the miles become the teacher while the student learns real slow, traveling blind most of the time. Wherever you go, it's not the getting there, it's the journey every day.
All right,
It's
we're back.
not a race to
And
see.
Annika, great check-in. It's kind of an interesting thing to get an idea of what it's like in a place that we don't spend a lot of time. Other parts of the world, sometimes we all kind of begin to think that what we're going through is exactly the same as somebody else, and that everybody else is seeing the world the way we do. So it's always a amazing thing. I love this global Be Connected community that you and I have joined together and gotten to know each other back in February, and now we're revisiting again, and I'm just so fascinated and so in love with the people that I'm getting to connect with in other parts of the world that I wouldn't have gotten to connect with otherwise. So tell me a little bit about your story. How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, as you said, everyone at my age, you have a long story, but I tried to make it short, but still with the most important ingredients. So, because that's what formed me. I would say I had a normal, growing up, nothing really special compared to most people. I wanted to go to medical school and I didn't have the grades. So I had to work my way, and I got into medical school when I was 29. So I had to really work hard for it. I had fun during those years, so it's not a sacrifice in that sense. But anyway, I got in when I was 29, and when I was 34, I was getting my medical exam. And I was supposed to save the world. I was going to start working, and everything was, just going to be big. And I was put in the worst stress test ever at that time. I had a brother who had a mental illness. He committed suicide, and he was 31 years old. And 1 week later, our firstborn baby, who was 10 weeks old, she had a severe genetic disease. She died. So I lost 2 dear people in 1 week, right when I was going to save the world. And did I get into a black hole? Yes, I did. And I could have stayed there, but I had friends, and I did not. When people started to talk to me about being a victim, I said, I'm not a victim. That's not me. So I had to figure out how to get out. And I got out with help. I had psychology help. And so, it started to work slowly but surely. I had one more dream, and that was to have more kids. So within a few years, we got 3 more girls who today are grown up, healthy, beautiful ladies. And we even have a grandchild. So I started working. Life was good in one way because I had what I wanted, but it was also very hard being a doctor with 3 kids full time, So some 10 years ago, I was very close to hit the stress wall myself. And so I decided to take a step to the side, and I remembered how it was, those black, dark years way back. And I looked at what did I do then, and then I realized I did not want to run into that stress wall. I wanted to do something else. So I took a course in stress management, not for medical people, but for anybody. And a little bit into that course, I realized this is what I need to work with. I need to help people not become patients, because I was sitting there every day doing prescriptions and telling them not to do things, and but you don't have time to work with the preventive in the healthcare clinic. You have to just treat disease when it's already been there. And I thought that was not the most effective way to use me. Mm-hmm. So that's how I ended up in getting a new career, so to speak.
That is so, wow. Okay, so I didn't have to coax any zombies out of you, because right out of the box you blew me away just with what you encountered. I think the fact of the warrior in you had you set a goal, and there were so many places where the zombie could have taken over, right? You didn't easily get into medical school, which I heard in your story. You had to power through. And even when you powered through and you got to the point where you thought, okay, I've arrived, I'm, as you said, ready to save the world, you lose your brother, you lose a child. The thing that, again, as I always say, the the fact that you weren't going to become a victim, the fact that you weren't going to let that rough part, and I know there's no way I can properly give credit to the overcoming of the zombies that you've experienced, but the fact that you powered through that, you didn't accept the victimhood, and you learn. And then the other thing that really is so powerful, and I hear it in the journeys with the warriors that are always showing up here to tell their story, is you actually used the challenges that you experienced and what you learned to move you down the road now, and that's brought you to where you are today. But if you hadn't had those experiences yourself, you may not have realized that that was really your life purpose. I know I have the same thing. It's the things in our lives, right? So that is so powerful. Well, let's do this. I'm going to take another break. That's a great break point, because I really, really want to get into, what you're doing today, the focus on stress management. And because I know in this environment, we talked a little bit in the check-in about the pandemic and different parts of the world. And if there's a pandemic of anything, in my opinion, I realize there's a virus behind this and maybe some other malintent behind certain things, but the real root, the real pandemic, if you will, is fear, stress, anxiety. And I think, at least here on our side of the world, we're seeing a lot of loss of life that is not a result, doesn't have a official COVID diagnosis, but is really as a result of what we've been going through. So I want to come back and hear about what you're doing today. Obviously, you shared a little bit of why and what kind of impact you're hoping to have as you move forward on the remainder of your journey. So we'll take a quick break, listen to a little more of Ricky Jean Wright and It's Not the Getting There, and we'll be right back with Annika Sorensen from Sweden on Warrior versus Zombie.
It's not a race to see how many people know your name. One day you realize time was worth more than the gold. It's not the getting there. When you get there, you'll know. Funny how wisdom.
All right, we're back, and oh man, I am just. I was glad I wasn't required to talk when you first started telling your story, Annika, because I was choked up beyond measure just hearing you share your story. So thank you for sharing that. So many times as warriors, I think you and I talked, and I'm sure with your clients and the people you work through all of this, that you think you're the only one. You believe that I'm going through this, nobody else has gone through this. You feel alone. And I'm sure that there's people that are going to hear this podcast that have gone through similar things, and they'll know and hear what you're doing, and you'll be an inspiration to them. So share with me a little bit about now in the audience about where you are, why you're here, where you're going, and the impact you'd like to have.
Well, as I said, I figured out I need to do something else than to just sit and write prescriptions, because it wasn't so fulfilling. I still love the meeting of the patients in the healthcare clinic, but the system is not really allowing you to dig deep into the discussions with the people, and it's very hard to help if you don't have the time, and preventive work takes more time. In the end, it's more effective, because if you actually help someone to not do things that are hurting themselves, they don't need to go to the doctor that often. So it's helpful in the long run, but the system is not built on that way of doing it. I still work as a doctor. I've been working quite a lot during this last year because of the COVID, because there's such a lack of people in the healthcare system. Because if you have the slightest bit of cold or feeling anything, you're not allowed to go there, even if you know it's not COVID, because you don't want to spread any other infections either.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I've been working a lot extra. So I've seen a lot of the COVID stuff from the inside too. Even I'm not in the hospital, but in the healthcare clinic. Wearing the mask and the shield and everything for every patient. Quite tiring. You get some brain fog after a while with wearing it.
So that's been an obstacle for because the stress in the system, as I would translate what you're experiencing there, has required you to provide the services that as an MD that you can provide as a family doctor and those kinds of things. Yeah. Whereas maybe your passion would be
to elsewhere.
Focus more on stress management and some of the things that are really more inspiring to you. But we all do another attribute, really. We do what we have to do at the time. I mean, I'm helping.
Yeah, no one is forcing me to do this, but it's a good way to help and also to learn and to see what the world is.
Yeah.
And I do want to. It's good to go back into the system sometimes to see what's going on, because that keeps you updated. But I do want rather to work with business leaders, executives, managers, people who have, because that's what I realized with the patients, people who have the responsibility for other people in the business systems. They usually care a lot for everything else but themselves. Mm-hmm. And when they finally come, they are stressed out, or they get heart disease, or that other stuff. And I realized that what I wanted to do was actually to help the business leaders to take care of themselves so that they could be the best leader they ever wanted to be. It would not only help them to feel more healthy, to feel better, to have better days, to more energy and all that. They would do a better job. They would have higher revenue, better connections with people, both staff, with the people that everyone that they serve, one way or the other. And also better relations in the homes, because if they become happier people, they are happier also at home. And it's kind of a win-win with all the ripple effects. So that's why I decided to focus on the business leaders, because they are a group that really need to start taking care of themselves.
That's awesome. That's actually very, very insightful and very powerful, because a leader is usually, it's not somebody who takes charge, it's really somebody who takes care of those in their charge. And so, as you said, whether you're a mom or whether you're leading a large organization, or you run a church or a network, or where your responsibility, it's kind of like the old story. Here in the United States, we say the cobbler's kids. It's like they make shoes for everybody else, but your own children don't have shoes. The people, it's kind of like we because we focus so much on moving forward and also helping those in our care move forward, we often forget about ourselves, and it's hard to give what you don't have. And if you're empty, you can't really serve. So if you can help the people that you, as you shared, if you can help the people that you are serving that have other people under their responsibility or their care, then you're actually geometrically, if you will, increasing your impact, which that's a very powerful thing. And it's very, very smart, it's leverage, right? It's your investing.
It is. And it was very obvious when I met people, because the business leaders, those are not the most common patients in the family practitioner's clinic, because they are not the people looking for healthcare that much. But when they do come, they have real problems. And they don't want to see them because they are not supposed to be vulnerable or weak. They are supposed to be the strong ones. And one way for people to understand this, if you think about, if you've been on an airplane, is that you need to put on your own mask before you help other people. Otherwise, in the end, you will not be able to help anyone.
Yeah, I love
that.
So
I am trying to help the business leaders to put on the mask on themselves.
Yeah, and you identified probably the biggest problem. I actually run, I have a monthly men's breakfast network, and I work specifically with men who are leaders of their family, leaders of their businesses, leaders of whatever. And that's one of the biggest challenges that we have is we're leading and we aren't willing to ask for help. Like you said, the leaders of these organizations, they're warriors just like you and I, and we both recognize, I think, and as does any warrior, that we need help too. Mentors need mentors. Coaches need coaches. And if you don't think you need a coach, if a leader doesn't think he needs a leader, then you're probably not a very good leader. And so, So getting the help you need. So tell me a little before we go on to the next segment. I just want to hear a little bit. You're creating this online stress management.
Yeah, I have been doing mentoring or coaching or whatever you would call it. I call it mentoring because I'm not a certified coach, but I am someone who's been speaking with a lot of people over the years. So I call myself mentor. I want to use my knowledge. And I do speaking and I do work groups for whatever they need in this kind of area. But now I've decided to make an online program where I serve people. It's a, you could call it a structured program, but I mean, of course, it's depending on what people really need. But it's a way to find the way out of the hamster wheel and to stay out of the hamster wheel. And it's a combination of coaching or, personal speaking like you and I are doing, and an online course that where you can work by yourself in the meantime, on your own time or in your own pace. Well, and it will be launched in a month or so. I haven't set the date yet.
Okay. Exactly. Well, I knew that was kind of where you were, but I'm also because you're in Sweden. It's hard. I wouldn't mind getting on a plane and flying to Sweden and going to a workshop that you're running there if they'd let me in the country. Again, I don't know exactly all the rules there, but I know there was at one point you're kind of saying, "Hey, we got it together, so we're not letting anybody else in." I think I remember that.
And I'm not welcome to the States right now either. So.
Yeah, so it's kind of a.
But this is an online program.
Yeah, so doing it online.
This is an online program.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that is.
And workshops. I can do workshops online with companies wherever they are, and you don't have to come to me. You can take me to your place. I can travel if we're allowed to places and have workshops in real life at that place. So it's I am. I like to travel, so it's a win-win.
You're ready. You're ready to plant the seeds that'll pull you into other parts of the world. That's a beautiful thing. Oh, let's do this. I'm going to, when we come back, I want to hear from you. If we were to take away anything from this podcast, what one or two things you would want to make sure we take away. And I also want to hear how we continue to stay connected with you. I know you have your own Live in the Hive show and Be Connected, and I know you're going to come up with this program, which I'm excited about. I assume that will be also available, and we now are part of this global community, so that's even more beautiful. But let's take a quick break. We'll hear a little more Ricky Jean Wright. We'll come back with what I call the Land the Plane segment with Annika Sorensen, and we'll be hearing her major takeaways and how to stay in touch. So we'll be right back with Warrior versus Zombie and Annika Sorensen.
Funny how wisdom and youth are always two different games. The years flew by so fast, is the common human complaint. The memories in our minds turn to diamonds in our soul. And by the grace of God, on down.
All right, we're back. And Annika, thank you already. I'm so grateful for your heart, your mission, hearing the zombies you've overcome and the warrior vision that you have for the future in terms of helping people through their challenges of stress and anxiety and other things. So, as I said before we took the break, what would you want us to take away from this podcast? If there were one or two things that you shared.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about what I teach or how I do it, but I would like to say one thing, and that is, don't complicate things. They are, you don't need to buy a lot of stuff to be stressed or to have less stress. It's all, you all have it inside. You just have to find it, like taking a deep breath for a second, and that will help your brain to, just relax a little, and then things will be easier. There are tons of that kind of information if you want to hear it, but it's don't complicate things because you don't need to. I learned that when I was in that black hole. You have all the power when you just find it. And also do it with a smile, because smiles are contagious. And if I smile, the people on the other side will smile, and I will get feel-good hormones, and you will get feel-good hormones. So it's a win-win. And feelings are contagious, so make them happy feelings.
Well, I love that. Actually, you and I couldn't be more aligned there, because whenever anybody asks, how's it going, I say always good. So, and that is a decision. That is not a statement of somehow I'm not experiencing the virus and you are, or anything else. It's just that I've decided already good. But what I love the most, and this is something that I think is so prevalent in anyone, and we all deal with stress, right, is overcomplicating things. As I tell my clients, I tell my kids, which essentially have become my clients because I have 5 kids and they're all very entrepreneurial and they're all on their own journeys. So whether I get paid directly or indirectly, I'm serving my kids. But I say, you get in your head. You start imagining and making things and building this whole dialogue going forward about what if this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. And the point is, you can't, the future's on God's calendar and the past is already gone. And so all you can do is be in the moment. And the moment, I love the breathing thing. I do that myself in terms of just getting aware that I'm here, I'm breathing, I'm relaxing. I mean, even my Apple Watch tells me it's time to breathe. You know, it's there's even technology to help us. So those are very powerful.
And they don't cost anything, and you always have them with you. So
Yeah, and that's what I love too. It's the most valuable thing we have is our time, and the thing that can really disrupt us the most is what we feel, and the feel comes from what we're focusing on. And if we're not focusing on things we can't control, then what do we get? We get stress, we get anxiety. So, well, that's beautiful. How do we stay in touch with you? Tell us, how can we connect with you in and outside of the Be Connected platform, or wherever you're at?
Yeah, of course, inside the Be Connected, if you are in the Be Connected. And also, if you go to my website, I think that's the easiest, because I have this contact page in there where you can just send an email, send a message, and it comes as an email to me. It's askdrannika.com, askdrannik.com. So it's very simple. And you also have a freebie right when you open it. So, and
I love freebies.
More information if you want.
Yeah, so askdrannika.com would be your website. And then, of course, being part of the Be Connected community, I know you and I have talked, but part of what we're trying to do, because there's so many people that we can work with on all platforms and in person, that I think the Be Connected community is becoming a quick way for us to focus our energy with people who we can serve and who intentionally want to be served and are aligned with us. So that's one of the things that I've seen that's been most powerful about this community, and it's growing every day.
And I have my own show, very short sections where I talk about different subjects within stress management. So
what's the name of your show?
It's The Cool Way to Calm.
Okay. Yeah, I think I remember seeing that. Yeah, The Cool Way to Calm. So, so anybody in the Be Connected community, or if you're not, it doesn't cost, by the way, if you're listening to this, it doesn't
cost anything.
It doesn't cost anything. And you can be, and in fact, just by joining, you have access to all kinds of value. One last question that came from the audience. Randy asked the question, and it's kind of one I think you answered a little bit, but just to close it out, are things as crazy in Sweden and insane as they seem to be here, or do you find that it's a little cooler and calmer in Sweden than at least we perceive it to be here in the United States?
Yeah, I would say it's calmer. It's we have never had any force to have the masks. People don't use the mask. We have not, looking in the long run, we have not more COVID than any place else. I think we are a bit down on the line. We had a lot of death early in the elderly homes, and that was of course Corona, but it was also because of many years of mismanaging or the organization for the elderly homes was not really perfect, so it got in because of other things, and when that was fixed, I think we are seen as the odd people in the world, because we have had no lockdowns, we have had no real force. We have forcing the restrictions in the bars and restaurants, and for some time in the winter time it was, you could not be as many in the stores and so on. But it's never been rioting hard, so to speak.
Well, I'm happy for you in that regard, and my kudos to the Swedish government, people, your independence. That's a beautiful thing. Annika, I could talk to you forever. Thank you so much for sharing with our warriors, with our audience. Can't wait to keep in touch with you, hear about your program. And for those that are wondering, okay, when's every Thursday, 11 a.m. Central Daylight Time, we'll be talking with another warrior, and this Live in the Hive the replay will be up, and it'll be on YouTube, and then they'll be on all the audio podcast platforms. It will be published within probably 24 hours of each of the live events. So I encourage you to join us, encourage you to be part of the Be Connected community. You can join our podcast, join the Warrior versus Zombie podcast group, and as well as any other organization. And Annika's show she really shares her insights, and I think that you definitely on stress, if you're struggling with any kind of stressors in your life, that would be a good show to listen into for 15 minutes or so and kind of hear her point of view for the day. I'm going to start doing that myself on a regular basis. So thank you, Annika. Thank you again. And with that, we'll land the plane here and hear one more final segment of It's Not the Getting There with Ricky Jean Wright and our audio audience. And we'll be back next week with another episode of Warrior versus Zombie. Thank you, Annika.
Thank you.
It's not the getting there, it's the journey every day. It's not a race to see how many people know your name. One day you realize time was worth more than the gold. It's not the getting there. When you get there, you'll know. One day you realize time was worth more than the gold. It's not the getting there. When you get there, you'll know.